Hey, what's up guys? John from Mongo Fishing. Time for another tournament video. Now this is going to be part 2 to that BFL video that I dropped on Tuesday. Part 2, I'm going to break down, kind of like the weather pattern, practice, my thought process, my baits, and the statistics for the tournament as a whole. So guys, just like all other tournament videos, regardless if I do well or if I suck, I'm still putting the video out. There may not be part 2s for some videos. I guess if I just zero, there's no need for a part 2. I don't know. We'll figure that part out when it gets to that. But anyway, if you guys want to see success along with failure, please hit the subscribe button right down there along with the bell notification button. And let's get into this. Okay, so I'm going to need some input from you guys also on this. I have, a question here and there throughout the video. I'm probably going to need you guys to answer. Okay, so let's get into practice. I practiced basically like 2 days and it was garbage. It was just hot garbage. I caught a few fish, nothing special, and maybe one of them was a keeper, but maybe not. I didn't measure it. The others that I caught were not keepers. I let one go without measuring because he was way too small. I let another one go measuring it, and it was like a 1/4 inch too small or an 1/8 inch, something like that. Either way, still too small. So I was not on anything. And I fished. I fished deep, which is not my game, but I got to keep it honest. I fished shallow, which is always where I'm going to try to go if I can. I threw, on rocks, on wood, on the little bit of vegetation I could find. Fast moving baits, slow moving baits. You name it. Like, I covered the spectrum. I threw, in practice, I threw A-rigs, crankbaits, lipless crankbaits, chatterbaits, jerkbaits, jigs, swim baits. Oh, I threw spinner baits in practice also. So the difference between practice and tournament for baits was I had 2 different color jerkbaits instead of having one jerkbait and one swim bait. I had a trailer on my spinner bait, and I changed colors in my jigs. I also had, on tournament day, I had a square bill tied on. I had a shaky head tied on also. I just didn't have it on deck. I did throw that in practice, didn't get bit with it, but I did give that a try. I forgot about that. And then also for locations in practice, I practiced, like I took off at the hatchery, and I practiced everything from down by the Carpenter Dam all the way up to upriver of Little Mazarn, between Little Mazarn and the 270 bridge. So a very large portion of the lake I practiced in. I didn't hit every single pocket, but I hit a lot of them. Both Mazarns, Little and Big Mazarn, random pockets, here and there, both, down on the lower end and up past the Big Mazarn. So, I put a lot of miles on the boat and just couldn't come across anything that was really, anything that had me really confident on what I should be doing. Also during practice, weather conditions, we had pretty warm days. And I knew for the tournament that was not going to be the case. We had a cold front moving in on Friday night, early Saturday morning. So Saturday's tournament was going to be a totally different weather conditions than what we had leading up to it. So high pressure, crystal clear blue skies on Thursday, Friday, and then rainy, hot garbage weather on Saturday. Super cold, windy, and a cold front moving in. Without having anything that was really good, pretty much the only thing that I caught my fish on was a crankbait. I got bites on some of the other stuff, but I didn't land anything, so I don't even know if they were bass. So that was practice. All right, so I get my co-angler, Ron. Ron's a nice dude. He's been bass fishing, longer than I have, and really experienced. He did really, really well last year. And me as the boater, it's ultimately my decisions on what we're going to do. And so here's where I want input from you guys. Whether you guys fish as a boater or as a co, I want to know your answer here. I was straight up honest with Ron on the phone. I told him I'm not on anything and we're going to cover water. I wasn't on winning fish. I let him know that we're going to struggle tomorrow, basically. And so what do you guys want to hear? What do you want to hear from your boater? Do you want to hear, do you want your boater to feed you a line of crap that, hey, he's catching them? Or do you want him to be honest with you and let you guys know right off the bat that it's going to be a grind and it's going to suck? And you're hoping to stumble across 5 fish each. But ultimately, let's get one, and then we'll fish for 5. Tell me, what do you guys want to hear? Do you want your boater to be, blatantly like blunt up front and honest with you? Or do you want him to fluff your pillow and tell you that you guys are going to sack him up? Drop a comment, let me know. So my thought process, here we go. I'm not a deep guy, okay? If I can fish shallow, I'm gonna fish shallow. And I practiced, I tried the deep game in practice, and I couldn't make it work. And so since I didn't really make the shallow game work either, but I at least saw more fish, I caught a couple, and I did see a couple free swimmers in dirt shallow water. That's what I'm going to go to. Even if I didn't see anything in the dirt shallow, if I can't get bit deep and I can't get bit shallow, I'm just going to go shallow, guys, because that's my bread and butter. That's where I'm comfortable. And when it comes time for bass fishing, you got to do what you're comfortable with. If you don't have the confidence in a technique or a location or anything like that, you're just not going to catch them. So confidence is huge. I had the confidence in fishing dirt shallow, so that's what we did. I could tell that Ron wanted to go deep. I mean, he's a shaky head guy. I know he wanted to fish deep that day. He's got brush piles, but again, I could not make that work in practice. So ultimately it's my decision, and that's what we did. Ron made a comment earlier in the day. He made a comment that, whether he was joking or serious, it doesn't really matter. But he made a comment that I don't know what I'm doing. And, if he's joking, cool. If he was serious, cool. It doesn't bother me. I was struggling, not gonna lie. The locations I fished, I picked them for a reason. And I had history on some of them, and others just set up with the conditions that we had, with the weather, with the wind, all that stuff. I just figured they'd be productive. So that's why we fished where we fished and how we fished, what we fished. He threw a shaky head most of the day, and I threw a jerkbait most of the day. Okay, so as you saw in the video, near the end of the video, we're doing a lot more running around. And it's not because I'm feeling the time crunch, but I don't want to stay and die in one location. I'm seeing fish pretty much everywhere we're going, but we can't make them bite. I'm watching them come up on my active target, look at my jerkbait, and then swim away. I couldn't get him to react on an A-rig at all. I'm dragging a jig at him, nothing. He's throwing shaky heads, nothing. So the only thing I could really get him to react on was a jerkbait. Later on, the sun had finally come up, and that's what I wanted all day. Because if the sun had come up earlier, we would have run back upriver. But by the time the sun came up, we have a half hour left before weigh-in, and that's not enough time to make a long run up towards the Mazarns again, right? We are committed to down on the lower end where we're at. And so we were in a pocket, a couple miles from takeoff or whatever. When the sun finally came up at 3:30, we have a 4 o'clock check-in. Sun finally came up at 3:30, and it's beating down on us. And I said, man, I wish this had come out earlier. Let's run. And so we started to run back down towards takeoff, and something clicked in my head. With the sun the way it is, and the wind the way it is, and like I've said before, I was fishing conditions all day. A spot on the lake clicked in my mind that should be set up perfect for what I want to do, and that's to go throw a trap for the last half hour. I know that a trap with a half hour left is not going to get me 5 fish, but it might get me, a fish, a nice fish. Instead, it ended up getting me 2 fish, 2 3-pounders in the last, 15, 20 minutes? Because, again, the area had set up with the wind and the weather, water temp, all that stuff set up perfect, that in my mind, those fish should be there on this little flat. It's not that it's a, secret honey hole or anything. Hell, I probably could have run someplace else and done the same thing. But with where I was, that was the closest location that I could think of that should set up that way. And that's why we ran over there, and I caught 2 within 4 minutes. I figured they'd be sitting underneath the docks, and you know, getting that shade. Although the water's cold, it was 47 in the morning where we took off and started fishing. It was 49 at some of the other places. I think it reached 50 and right there at the end of the day where we were fishing, but it's still cold, right? Those fish are going to want to, you know, be sunbathing and warming up on the rocks and stuff like that. In this area, it does not have any of that, but it has a little bit of grass. It's old, like nasty grass and slimy. It's not the good grass you want, but it has a little bit of grass, but also has shade. And that was a high, bright sun beating down. And even though the water's cold, those bass are still going to want to, you know, protect their eyes, if you will. They're ambush predators. They're going to want to be in the shade and ambush bait. And so, sure enough, that first trap fish I caught, he shot out from underneath the dock. And I'd made, I mean, even if you ask Ron, I'd probably make the same cast multiple times. I just had a feeling that there's going to be a bass there somewhere. And I just kept throwing. And eventually he popped out from underneath the dock and smoked it.
You get it? You got yours, huh?
Fish. This is why we came over here. And then the next one, we had moved out a little bit with the intent of going to hit some other little stuff that was over there. And he shot out from like a cooking pot that was sitting in the water, like a big metal cooking pot. He shot out from that and smoked my bait. So again, he was still kind of in the shade, in that warming, shallow, 2 foot or less water, and but getting that shade. So anyway, there was my thought process. That's why we went and ran where we ran, what we fished. It's not because it's some secret honey hole, anything like that. It's literally because in my mind, with where I was already in the day and the way the conditions had changed, that was the closest location for me to go run to try to catch one more fish. I just happened to manage to get 2. So let's talk statistics. 167 boats, 167 co-anglers. It took 17:15 to win on the boater side. It took 14:03 to win on the co-angler side. Boater side took 8 pounds, 5 ounces to cash a check. They went down to 33rd place paying out checks. 8 pounds, 5 ounces. And it took 3 pounds, 14 ounces on the co side to cash a check. Same thing, down 33 places. I finished in 27th place with 3 fish for 9 pounds, 1 ounce. And Ron finished in 90th place with 1 pound, 4 ounce. Now, there was 28 zeros on the boater side, like 17% of the field, 16.5%, whatever, 17% of the field zeroed on the boater side. And on the co-angler side, almost 40%, 66 zeros out of 167 people. So his, you know, my fish and his fish are huge in points. So I'm sitting in 27th going into the next event. He's sitting in 90th going into the next event. Bro, that's still not bad, because the guys, the way that Major League Fishing works is for a regular season event, we're not talking supers, but for the regular season event, if you don't catch a fish, you only get 20 points. So Ron's fish, although he finished in 90th place, is worth 161 points. If he would have zeroed, he would have got 20 points. So he's still sitting really, really good. We're both sitting really, really good to make the regionals at the end of the year. Top 45 at the end of the year move on to the regionals. And again, if you haven't fished the BFLs, Ron's still really, really in it. It's you can still zero on a co-angler and make it. And the fact that he caught a fish in a tournament where 40% didn't, he's sitting really, really good. So that's that, guys. Please, you know, share the video with your friends. Trying to grow the channel. If you guys have any questions, drop them down below. I will answer them as best I can. If you guys enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up. As always, get out on the water, be safe, and go stick some lips.